Welcome to the Year in Review. I am your host, King Crusoe. You can call me KC, and today we're going to take a look at 2025, or the year that I have said many times, multiple different occasions, in several different ways, and by several different ways, I mean exactly one way. The year that kicked my teeth in. 2025 went a little bit lopsided, especially in comparison to how 2023 and 2024 went, which were generally pretty smooth, albeit a little bit crazy in some ways. 2025 was crazy in disconcerting ways, we shall say. It simultaneously felt like it went by in like 6 months, but on the same token, 2025 also feels like it lasted like minimum 2 years, basically, where there's some other things that happened like 12 or 13 months ago at this point that feel like they could have been 2023 or something like that. It's just been a really strange year. It felt like it melted away. Doesn't even really feel like 2026. I feel like we're just barely entering 2025, or maybe just halfway through it or something like that. Case in point, in some regards, it feels like it was only a handful of months ago that I did the last one of these year in review videos where I covered the entirety of 2024. Now here I am covering the entirety of 2025. It's kind of strange. But with that being said, let's discuss what I will be covering throughout today's video. It is going to be pretty lengthy, so I don't want to waste too much more time here at the offset. Pretty similar to last year, this video is going to be structured. So first off, we're going to be announcing some pretty notable changes to the channel. Not just to the channels, in fact, actually to start off that section, we'll talk about a couple big life updates that will be affecting the channels to one degree or another, just pretty briefly. But then we're going to talk about some general schedule plans that I have, and a handful of like content updates, like little changes that are going to be coming to certain things that I'm doing on YouTube, and then maybe a couple additional notes of things if I felt they were necessary to include, which I don't remember what all I've included in this notes because it's 2,500 words long compared to last year's being 1,500 words. And since last year's video was 1,500 words and was an hour long, I'm not looking forward to what the length of this video will ultimately be. But once we get through talking about some of those more notable changes, things that are going to impact the channel, we'll talk about my general 2025 recap and statistics to go along with it. How I felt about 2025 as a year for my content, how my channels performed over that time, and the deeper statistics of it. And then after that, we will start going into the third phase of the video, which will be my goals, plans, my hopes for 2026, which we'll discuss some of my targets for what I hope the channels do performance-wise over the course of this year, but also, some of the other little plans that I have for non-channel related stuff, or even some more of the details of like more specific things that I would like to actually get done this year, wherever that type of note is relevant. So there's a lot to get through. Let's go ahead and jump into the video by announcing some of the notable changes coming to my life, which will thus affect the channel. The real kicker, the first thing to mention, is something that I already talked about in this most recent Tuesday's video, where I got a new job. That's actually the beginning of the title of that video. So if you're looking for that, it is I got a new job, and in parentheses, it says something like how this will affect my content and coverage of like Sun Eater stuff. If you want more details about what all that is going to entail, you can watch that video. And additionally, I'm not going to speak too much more about it in this video because this video is going to be long enough, but also because there's still some things about that actual role and some of the other details that are still being finalized. Not all of that is 100% nailed down yet, so I don't feel right like actually talking about it more in depth here for length reasons and for some of those technical reasons. So I'll actually make another direct, clear video talking about as many of the details of it as I can and need to more directly here soon whenever all of that is finalized. It's all really exciting and nerve-wracking stuff, but getting a new job and the way that's going to affect the channel, it is going to affect my YouTube content. Next up, and this is a little bit more of an auxiliary thing and not something that's really, that I'm going to plan very much for, at least at this point in time, is that there's a pretty good chance that I decide to do a little bit more traveling in 2026 compared to previous. 2025 kind of broke the seal on that a little bit for me because I took a couple trips across the country. Those were pretty new experiences for me. But now that I've actually dealt with airports and flying and stuff like that, it's not nearly so scary of an idea to do anything like that. And there is the chance that I decide to do a couple road trippy type of things as well over the course of 2026. Most likely none of that kind of stuff, if it ever ends up happening, is going to be a thing until like this summer or maybe even later, especially a trip that I have sort of planned for going to Switzerland this year, which may be delayed till next year or later in the year. I don't know. Like I said, not 100% sure what all the travel plans are, but 2026 might be a year that I travel some more, and that is also going to end up affecting the channel depending on when those kinds of trips happen, plus all of that other kind of stuff. But in the meantime, these first handful of months in the year, while I'm getting used to the new job, getting used to doing all that in accordance with some other things that I'm working on right now. And of course, while it is still winter time and, pretty difficult to actually plan travel where I live because of that, none of that's going to affect the channel in the immediacy. So that's all stuff to just keep eyes out for with regard to state of affairs and maybe Fortnite on the Isle, my regular update content on any of the channels. You'll know what's happening ahead of time if I have something going on. And if something happens spur of the moment, I'll be sure to keep that updated on my community page, maybe even social media too, but we'll talk about some of that a little bit later. Finally, let's address some of the content schedule ideas, the general plans that I have for the year, the notable changes. On the main channel, not too much should be changing with regard to schedule this year, as far as I know, at least not for the first half of the year. I'm going to continue to focus on doing Tuesday and Thursday releases for the Book Binge, my primary series, my main book coverage series on the main channel. And January is basically going to follow that Tuesday, Thursday release schedule, and it's mostly going to be doing more month and end of year wrap-up stuff, covering more things from December, like what I got read and whatever, and also covering 2025 as a year, my favorite books of the year, as well as, my full year reading tier list videos and things like that I do. There are some things for January that I haven't planned out quite yet, but January is going to be basically the same that it has been the last few years, which is just kind of wrapping things up and maybe additionally looking a little bit forward to the year to come, even though I've done some of that already. February through April, however, the schedule is going to be slightly different in that all of my Book Binge episodes on Tuesdays are going to be happening basically just as normal, but basically every Thursday through that time, I'm going to be doing Wheel of Time Diaries. I'm going to be finishing the last few books in that series, basically back-to-back months, so probably most, if not every Thursday from February through April, and it might even bleed into May a little bit, depending on how long it takes, will be dedicated to that series. There is the potential for me doing some Sunday Book Binge episodes opposite Fortnite on the Isle, like I was doing for quite a while, actually, like from mid-2024 through mid-2025, I was doing Sunday episodes of the Book Binge. There's a chance that I'll start doing those again for those few months while I have so much Wheel of Time Diary content, just to diversify a little bit of my book coverage for those handful of months. But that is still to be determined, particularly because I'm not sure what topics I would actually cover in those, and I may not have time to be producing that extra third video on those fortnights, just on account of time, obviously. So, those are some of the schedule plans for basically all the way through April. And then, like I said, May might be a little bit more of that, depending on how long it actually takes to read Wheel of Time stuff. And June onwards, it's pretty difficult to guess at what that schedule is going to look like, especially since if I do any traveling this year, it's probably going to be June, for a handful of months afterwards, and that kind of stuff I just haven't really had a chance to look at. I do want to go to Switzerland, for example, but when that trip might happen, for example, no idea at this point, so I can't really plan ahead exactly what my video schedule is going to look like come summertime. So that is what things look like. There's also a chance that I tone down the release cadence come June, depending on how much traveling or other random stuff I've got going on. It all depends. As for the second channel, things probably aren't going to change too much from what they've been as of most recently, and that is because the back half of this year I kind of got a pretty good idea of what it is that I like doing on the second channel with various different forms of content. So probably some of these will continue to some capacity, and in whatever capacity I am able to continue doing them. What this means is that Music Mania, for example, an update compared to what Music Mania was early last year, I was doing weekly music coverage stuff for a handful of months in 2025, realized that just really isn't sustainable for multiple different reasons, and decided that doing monthly wrap-ups for music made a little bit more sense, kind of ranking all of the stuff that I listen to each month and covering that instead of doing everything that I listen to every single week. Just makes a little bit more sense this way, so I'm going to be continuing that schedule that I've been doing with Music Mania the last few months, which is that monthly wrap-up. And also in 2026 with music-related content, I do hope more album reviews start happening again in 2026, because in 2025, I only actually got to review 2 albums dedicatedly, and there's at least a couple more that I would have liked to write reviews for, although to be fair, one of those didn't happen because I was thinking that the second part to it would come out in 2025, and it didn't, so that's on me. And then another one of those I just didn't have time for. So, it happens. I would like to be able to dedicatedly review a couple more albums again. Instead of just doing Music Mania, I would like to be able to cover some of my favorites again. Furthermore, doing movie, film, and TV related stuff, I will continue to do movie magic in some capacity, because I discovered, I really like doing that kind of thing. And I wanted to actually start 2025 off by making videos of some of the reviews that I had written from 2024 for film reviews, and, bringing those forward. And maybe I'm still able to go back and do that kind of thing. Probably not. But I discovered that I like doing that, and I wanted to be able to make a video version of those movie reviews, and I started doing that in 2025. It was great. I had a really great time being able to do that. So, of course, in 2026, if there's any new movies that I go to watch in the theater or something like that, probably going to make videos on those just like I have been. And I also want to cover some other random stuff on Movie Magic that is relevant. For example, I'm going to be rereading Lord of the Rings for my main channel this year at some point. I would also like to reread The Hobbit, and if I do those things, I kind of want to cover The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings films on the second channel as kind of relevant tie-over, or tie in, basically, to connect the content of the two channels together a little bit, since they'd be relevant. That's something that I think would be pretty fun. I think it would also be fun to bring back my Dune reviews, since Dune Part 3 will be coming out at some point this year, and if I talked about the first 2 movies on the second channel, since I haven't made video versions of those reviews yet, I think that would be pretty fun. And also, I should probably reread Dune and read Dune Messiah this year just because of that, but probably not going to happen. But in either case, like I said, I would like to be able to do some of that. There's also some other movie magic related things that I would like to get done. Almost certainly not going to happen, but I sort of want to do semi-marathon type stuff for particular creators within the space. Just watching more from actual standout notable name directors and things like that to cover, just frankly, to broaden my film palette, and also to become more aware of what's out there, because I've not watched very much stuff, quite frankly, and having a more diverse palette, I guess, palette's not the right term, but having a more diverse experience with the medium would certainly aid in being able to review more of it and know a little bit more of what I'm talking about. So that's something that I want to do, and I'd also like to cover some TV stuff every once in a while, maybe a popular show or series or something like that that people could vote on or something. I don't know. Point is that I want to continue doing movie magic stuff, and those are some of the ideas that I have working going into this year on that series. And next up, on the video game front, I'm also going to continue doing that. I got to do a few brief review episodes for different games that I played in 2025, and I will continue to do that as I play games in 2026, though I'm not entirely sure how many of those will happen. No telling how well this works in the end, but it is something that I'm going to continue to do. And then a big thing that I want to do on the second channel is to actually bring back a critical analysis. This is something that's been waiting for a revival for years, and I'd optimally like to at least get the rewrites for for all of season 1 written in 2026, even if I don't get all of the videos actually made, because that's a very big project actually. But I would like to actually circle back around to that. That was a goal that I had for 2025, and boy, did that not happen at all. Also, with regard to Let's Plays, they're kind of in a weird state of limbo at the moment. I've had my biggest breaks with regard to doing Let's Play stuff on the second channel over the last couple months, just sheer no time to do what I've wanted to. So as far as recorded Let's Plays, I simply haven't had the time for a while. Hopefully come February, I'll be able to return the consistent Friday Let's Play releases for whatever, and be able to actually get ahead on some of that and backlog some stuff so that I don't run out of those again. I can't believe that ended up happening, but alas it did. And I also want to start doing more live streams more regularly on the second channel as well. In October, I did a small handful of live streams doing the Little Nightmares games, playing through those live for once, and I want to do some gaming stuff live on the second channel this year as well. So like have recorded Let's Play stuff, just like there's at least one thing coming out every single week on the channel, like what was happening for most of 2025. Probably I'll stream on weekends, somewhat consistently. I would like to stream on Saturdays and or Sundays, gaming related stuff, proper Let's Plays like that on Saturdays, and just kind of doing a chill like Star Wars The Old Republic type of thing, hangouts on Sundays or something. I don't know, haven't fully decided yet, but that is something that I do want to get back to again in 2026, because it's dropped off a little bit the last couple months, pretty much unintentionally. With regard to other channels that I have, not just my main two channels, I also had ideas for improving my health and fitness this year, and related spiritual stuff as well. So I'm thinking of maybe doing some stuff on the third channel and like actually making it a thing, like doing a monthly wrap up on the third channel where I talk about specifically my health and fitness journey as well as my spiritual journey. Maybe making those into separate videos, maybe combining them. Again, I'm not entirely sure, but I would like to do something with semi-regularity on the third channel, just for the sake of having an excuse to really follow through with that, to give myself a little bit of accountability. Because if I don't have an excuse to do something, like if there's not something quote-unquote work-related with regard to it, I just have a hard time like actually keeping up with it. That's why I didn't watch movies for years until I started reviewing them, and so I think that that's something that I want to do on the third channel. It'll be easier to keep up with, for example, my health and fitness if I am continually updating where I am on a health and fitness standpoint, to kind of like prove that that's something that's happening. That's what I've got going on with the YouTube front. There are some things to talk about on non-YouTube related stuff, so things like my website and my review platforms. Last year in 2025, I talked about 2024 as having left my website in a state of absolute disrepair, and unfortunately that still holds true. I did not touch that at all in 2025, just as I predicted. I did not end up having time to come back around to it, and try as I might, actually, I didn't have the opportunity to fix it at all, because I actually tried to for a little while. Thankfully, at this point, because of my new job, the urgency for repairing the website, even if just for the sake of being able to advertise myself in a freelance sense, that urgency is basically gone now. But even so, there's really no excuse for how little I've done on this front with the website, so I would like to actually fix some of that and circle back around to it this year. It is in need of some major updates, not to mention all of the little things. So I've got a lot to work to do on that front. But outside of the website, I did also last year talk about how I was reviewing things on various different review platforms and writing reviews for all the different media that I talk about in these videos and stuff, but also like having a place to basically store all of that content elsewhere. My website is not that place right now because I have not been able to update it. But if you have accounts on Goodreads for book reviews, Letterboxd for film reviews, Serialized for TV reviews, Backlogged for game reviews, or Music Board for music reviews, I have a profile on all of those platforms that you can get to via the link tree in the description down below. And that's where I've been posting all of my written long form review content for all of those different things. So if you want to follow there or on any of those platforms, if you have them, you can do that. Like I said, I hope to eventually at some point have the website a bit repaired so that I can actually compile all of those together and centralize it so that you don't have to have accounts on all those different platforms just to be able to get that content, where you can just get it all in one easy spot. But yeah, eventually the website should be able to compile all of that. It's just nowhere near actually happening at this point. So those review platforms still there. I've been following through with those decently well, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And that naturally takes us actually into the social media side of things, where not much happened on that front in 2025 either, unfortunately. My seasonal production pages are still all active. They exist, but they have not been used near enough. We will again talk about this a little bit more in the goals section of this video. So I'll move right into the next broader category of the year in review, which is my general 2025 recap and more notably the statistics of it all. Definitely started the year for me with regard to like my actual video content. I started the year with some interesting minor content tweaks that I'd been able to add to make the videos slightly more interesting, like from a creative and particularly an editing perspective. They weren't anything super flashy to like distract viewers who'd been watching for a long time, but there were things to make it slightly more visually interesting in the meantime. Nonetheless, I felt like I was getting complacent in 2024 with my content. I wanted to break that barrier down, and unfortunately sheer lack of time for many months has done a pretty solid number in basically reversing my decision to do that. For the first handful of months, I was actually doing pretty okay on that front, just with little minor things now and again. But unfortunately, for the most part, that kind of disappeared, and I have not done any of those little things for the rest of the year. Basically, since I went on hiatus, because I did take a brief hiatus from content stuff in June of 2025 because things were just so crazy, and I was exhausted between not just the content, but most especially because of my IRL job at the time before I ended up quitting it after June. But I took a content hiatus in June, and basically after I came back from that in July, from that point on, I had stopped doing all those tweaks. Like I said, I quit my job pretty shortly after that, and ironically, that did not afford me much time because I spent all of that extra time that I gained from not having to go to work just really doubling down on making second channel videos, and that was a great time. But then I just didn't follow through with the little content tweaks. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that front this year. Maybe I'll do a little bit of it. Not entirely sure. Most of how intensive, quote unquote, my editing is comes down to how much time I actually have. And if I feel like I have time and I want to do a little bit of extra editing, I'll sometimes do that. But most of the time I have not had time for that as of recent. A lot of personal life chaos over the last few months especially took shape from September to December, and that also just really hammered in that craziness. That last quarter or third of the year was just too much, continues to affect me even right now, so I really have no idea what this is going to look like as far as moving into the future. But with that being said, let's actually talk about some of the accomplishments there on YouTube this year. I'm going to go ahead and move me over within the camera frame a little bit. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to look, but so that I can display some of the content, statistics over here for some visual stuff. On the main channel, I released 145 videos in 2025, which was down 17%. The fact that it was only down 17% was actually a little bit surprising, given that I had that entire month in June where I didn't post anything, and then there were a handful of other videos where I just didn't end up getting to make them. There were a couple like update videos, for example, that did not get made because there wasn't time in the midst of some other things that I had going on when those videos otherwise would have been made. My goal for the year was 150 to 175 videos. Considering that there was an entire month where I didn't post anything except for the fact that I was going on hiatus, the fact that I got 145 videos released, more than satisfactory. That's really great. I'm kind of surprised that that actually happened. I got over 30,000 views on the channel this year, up 65.6% from 2024, where my lower and upper end goals for 2025 were 15 to 20,000. The fact that I got 30,000, that's pretty slick. That's way more than I was predicting or hoping that I would get. Got over 3,100 watch hours in 2025 as well, which is up 85% over 2024. That is a big jump. My goal was 1,500 to 1,750 watch hours for the total of the year, so like not even getting to 2,000, and I broke 3,000. And in fact, because I broke 3,000 watch hours, I've hit the first stage of YouTube monetization eligibility. I am actually technically a YouTube partner now, which means that I could set up things like super chats and channel memberships and like a couple other things. Not ad revenue, that's not a thing that exists on the channel at this point yet, but that is, I am technically a YouTube partner, so I would actually this year like to go over that and start to enable some of that just for the sake of it, because that would be pretty cool. It's exciting. It's certainly very exciting. Was not expecting that to happen in 2025. Next up, I got well over 900,000 impressions in 2025, up only 16% over the previous year, given that that wasn't that much of a jump, whereas the views and especially the watch time were, indicates that my click-through rate in 2025 was actually a good bit better than it was the year before that, and more importantly, the people who were clicking were watching on average for a decent bit longer than they were the previous year. That is always super encouraging, considering that my goal was just to hit a 500,000 impressions in 2025, maybe 750,000 on the upper end. The fact that I got honestly pretty close to scratching at 1 million is pretty good. And you know, if I had actually had a similar increase in my impressions as I did like at the view count, for example, I would have cracked that well over. So that's pretty impressive, actually. I'm very happy by that showing, and also very happy by the fact that I managed to hit the subscriber count required for YouTube monetization eligibility. For example, I talked about the watch hours. You need 3,000 watch hours within a 365-day period to be eligible for that first stage of monetization. But to be eligible at all, you have to have 1,000 subscribers. My goal for 2025 was to increase that count by 225 and thus bring my total to 1,000. I managed to increase that count by 323, bringing my total to 1,098 by the end of the year. Actually, I'd gotten up to 1,099, but like in the last hour or two of New Year's Eve, one of those left. But that's okay. Very nearly 1,100 when 1,000 was my lofty goal for the year. More than happy with that. Thank you to everybody who has watched, who has clicked on the videos, who has clicked that shiny red button, all of that. I really sincerely appreciate it. Next up, let's talk about the second channel, which also had a very good showing this year. Pretty unexpectedly, if you know the one video that is like the cause of most of this. But overall, my channel did very well in 2025. I released 88 videos on the second channel. My goal was 100 or more videos, but that was taking into account doing the weekly Let's Play stuff every single week and then doing Music Mania every single week, not to mention any other stuff like that. So it was like a pretty easy goal to say like, hey, yeah, I want to hit 100 plus. But then I stopped doing weekly Music Mania stuff. I don't remember when I did that. I think I made that decision around the same time I took the hiatus, considering there was also the hiatus where I didn't make any bonus content outside of the Let's Play stuff that was already pre-scheduled for months ahead of time. And the last couple of months where I posted like maybe 5 videos combined between November and December because of no Let's Play content to continue posting and lack of time to be able to make anything more than that. The fact that I still got 88 videos considering the changes that happened there is pretty great. That was up over 50% from the previous year. And then I also did 4 live streams in 2025. I kind of talked about that in October. I did a few Little Nightmares gameplay live streams on the second channel, whereas 2024 I had done one live stream. That was a little test doing Helldivers 2 playthrough. That was before I changed desktop and some other settings stuff that borked all of my audio. So I finally got all of that working enough to try live streaming again, started doing live streaming. So I did all that. So that's like 92 videos, the equivalent of posted. I got 12,500 views on the second channel in 2025, which was up 389%. My goal was only to get 1,000, or on the upper end, like crazy number, 2,500 views on the second channel, and those were like pretty lofty goals, considering that 2024 was a very slow year until the last couple months, where I had some time relevant releases that really boosted some things. This year things went crazy because I was doing pretty good consistent content there for a while, particularly in like September and October, and then there was also the fact that I reviewed Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and I think that video by itself takes like half of the views on my second channel over 2025. So that's no small part of the reason why that happened. So thank you to the people who watched that, especially the people who subscribed because of it, because when we talk about subscribers, most of my new subscribers are from that video. Next up, I got very nearly 1,700 watch hours on the second channel in 2025, which was up 717% from the previous year. That is a huge increase in average view duration, like absolutely absurd. And considering that my goal for watch hours was 100 to 200, I got 1,700. Wow, that is a big, big jump. I also, between live streams and videos, got well over 500,000 impressions, which was up 460% from the previous year. My goal was to get 50 to 100,000 impressions, and yeah, I got more than 100,000 impressions just from one of the Little Nightmares live streams. Like alone by itself got like 116,000 impressions, which is, I think, the most impressions any one of my videos by itself has gotten, period. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, so that's where that went this year. I had a net increase of 109 subscribers on the second channel as well, bringing my total to 138. Again, I actually ended up, I had 140 subscribers for like most of November and December, and then again in the last like 3 or 4 hours of New Year's Eve, 2 of those people dropped out, then 1 increased actually, and then another 1 dropped out again. So that was disappointing to not have the 140, but 138, that was an increase of 109. Like, my goal was to only get like 21 new subscribers to bring my total up to 50, and I came not too far away from hitting 150. That was completely unexpected. The second channel did incredibly well this year, and I would like for it to continue to do well going into 2026. Unfortunately, there's just the problem of the last couple months I've not really posted anything, so my performance on the second channel is tanked. Unsurprisingly, I'm not complaining like, oh, why is this I know exactly why it's happening. I just hope that that's not, going to be something that's too hard to break through as I try to, reinvigorate the second channel now. And then I also started doing third channel stuff. And by third channel stuff, I made an IRL channel for like, non-entertainment related stuff. So like, philosophy and religion, fitness and health, anything that's like in real life related. I decided I wanted to be able to do a third channel for. Nothing to like really focus on in depth, but to be able to talk about some things every once in a while as I feel like I want to. Like, that third channel is like the hobby channel at this point. No idea what I'm going to do with that. I've already told you some ideas. I have some more ideas that I'll get into, but I posted 1 video on the third channel because I had something that I really needed to say. 1 video, 13 views, 0.7 watch hours, 94 impressions, got 2 subscribers from it. But that is all for the third channel. There were no goals associated with it because I didn't have this last year. But yeah, it was an insane year. My content performance was broadly very, very good. Very thankful for all of that, of course. Thank you to everybody who's watching and who has watched anything that I've put out. On the personal side of things, and, for my personal time and emotions and some other things like that, it was very hit or miss year 2025 was. That's why I say it kicked my teeth in. There were some pretty big changes, and a lot of those changes were massive enough that it was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing with myself anymore. I don't mean to complain about any of it. My apologies for complaints and snide remarks. I really am trying to be positive. The content side of things is definitely something to be positive about. I'm very proud of a lot of the work that I was able to put out in 2025, despite the setbacks and stuff like that. Particularly second channel stuff, I was so happy with, and the fact that the performances continued to be very good on both of my main channels. Like I'm super grateful for that. But now let's talk about my website and writing related stuff. Obviously, there's nothing to really talk about website specific. But as far as writing, there's some big things to talk about. But let's talk about fiction a little bit here and relay the unfortunate fact that I did not write anything for The Reign of Ash in 2025, which disappoints me to no end. I did get about nearly 5,900 words written for some fiction-related projects. However, very early in the year, I developed like an anthology series idea that I'm calling The Tributaries, which is basically a series of like short stories dedicated to particular people in my life, where those stories will kind of like explore topically or thematically things associated with that person as I knew them in real life, usually with regard to loss or grief or something like that. And I was able to start doing some writing on some of that as like a little bit of a break, mental reset, to be able to get back into Reign of Ash after processing some pretty dark things at the end of 2024. And unfortunately, real life work got in the way so much in March, April, and May particularly, that they just completely set back my ability to do any fiction writing at all. Like there was no way. It was not going to happen. And then I have not recovered since then. I've not done any fiction writing since then. Only 5,900 words for fiction stuff. But for nonfiction stuff, for reviews, because basically all the rest of this is review-related stuff, nearly 200,000 words. I wrote 196,063 words this year, and 190,000 of that was for reviews. When I think about that, my brain kind of explodes, and like I even look back at my last year in review, where I talked about having written 118,000 words for reviews in 2024. You combine those years together, over the course of 2 years, I wrote over 300,000 words for review content. If I was somehow able to like siphon all of those words and put them into fiction related stuff, I would have all of the outlines for The Reign of Ash done by now. Like, and over those 2 years, I could have all those outlines written and revised by now if all of the words that I'd written for review stuff were somehow able to magically be siphoned into that. And like, that's kind of disheartening in a big way, for sure. But at the same time, I also recognize that writing reviews is way easier for me than doing the fiction stuff in the first place. And also, I still really love writing reviews, so like, I don't regret it per se. For example, I was able to write like 33,000 words worth of reviews just in December 2025. And even if I focused all of my time every single day of the month to writing fiction related stuff in December, I don't know that I would have been able to put that many words into it. It's just so much harder. I legitimately wrote a 1,200 word review. 1,200? Might have been 2,000. No, it would have been more like a 1,200 word review in like 40 minutes, I think. There was a day in December where I did that. You can't write 1,200 words of fiction in 40 minutes if they're not terrible words, So that's just to put things into perspective. Anyway, let's talk about the actual word counts. Of those 190,000 words that I wrote for reviews, 42,417 of them were for book reviews that I put on Goodreads. There were 25 book reviews that I wrote over there, and I was able to actually catch up on one review that did not get written in 2024 that needed to, so I was able to do that. There is one other review, however, from 2024 that did not get finished, that I have not finished yet still. That is the Infinite Jest review. I feel really bad about that one. That one's like 2026. That review's going to get written, I swear. I don't want to make that promise, because if I don't keep it, that'll be embarrassing. But like, it's going to get written. It better, because I've been saying, like, I got caught up on all of my review stuff. There's still one review that I need to finish, and realistically, I just need to restart it. But anyway, 25 book reviews. I wrote the equivalent of a review for one manga, because I reviewed like the back half of Monster in early 2025, and I've reviewed the first half of Girl from the Other Side that I've read so far in December, obviously. So like, I've read or reviewed one manga's worth of content, basically, but, you know, half of one and then half of another later. And then I also wrote an extra like 100 words for one short story in there randomly. So yeah, 42,000 plus words for book reviews. On Letterboxd, for film-related stuff, I wrote just about 37,000 words for reviews. I wrote 17 film reviews over the year. There were also 4 movies that I didn't write like full-length reviews for, just did a couple paragraphs, like mini review type of things, saying like, there will be a time when I review this like in the future because of, you know, some series or film marathon related thing that I want to do at some point. But yeah, so there's like 4 mini reviews, 17 real reviews, and then also 10 brief Christmas movie reviews, which are like sort of in the middle. They're not the mini review type of thing, but they're also not the full dedicated reviews for the most part. And then I had also done my 2024 Film of the Year ranking script that I did early in the year, of course, and that all combined to the 37,000 words. For backlogged video game review stuff, I wrote over 27,000 words, 6 game reviews, 1 DLC review, nothing for a critical analysis. All that stuff was just a brief review related stuff. And then, of course, my 2024 Game of the Year list, which I had written in like January of 2025. All that combined to the 27,000 words. On Music Board, and this is the statistic that's really getting me. It's like that nickel diming idea. For music-related review stuff, I wrote somehow over 83,000 words in 2025 for album reviews on Music Board. No idea how I did that. To be fair, like well over 10,000 of those words were for 2 dedicated album reviews that I managed to do over the course of the year. I lamented the fact that I wasn't able to do more of that. So if you take out those 2 reviews, my word count is closer to 70,000. But even so, that's way more than I wrote for any of the other categories of reviews that I've been doing. How did I do that? Well, it's because I reviewed like 321 different albums and EPs that I listened to over the course of 2025. Whether new releases, most of those were new releases, but there were also several like older stuff that I've listened to before, usually instrumental albums because of freelance work, editing, copy editing type of stuff, where I was listening to some of that. So like I wrote a lot of reviews, but it's the fact that, let me do a quick math here real quick. If I divide, let's just say for the sake of argument, somewhere around, I'll just say 70,000 for the sake of ease, and I divide that by about 321, potentially a little bit more because the count got funky in a couple places, album and EP reviews. That's an average of 218 words per review. That's not very long, especially for me. And then if you also consider the fact that I didn't even include this in here, if you count my journal writing as well, because I started doing journal writing in 2025, I also wrote 77,000 words in my journal over the course of 365 days. So I wrote a lot for like nonfiction related stuff this year. It's kind of mind-boggling. I should also note that my 2024 album of the year list was also included in that word count, you know. But in either case, it's like, that's not very many words, but when you're reviewing so many little things, it really adds up. And that has actually started to reshift my brain a little bit within the context of writing. Of course, I know that writing just a little bit every day, it ends up with way higher word count than like writing a lot of words a couple days every once in a while. So like, if I were to just come up with the goal to like write even just 100 words for fiction related stuff over the course of a year every single day, you know, that very easily comes up to 36,000, 37,000 words written over the course of a year. That's only 100 words a day. Could I do 100 words of fiction writing a day? Honestly, really, really easily if I actually decided to do that, if I decided to make that a thing that I did. So like I just have this mental realization looking at all the words that I wrote for review related stuff this year, just like, wow, if I was able to siphon all of the time that I spent writing those reviews, even if the word count wouldn't be equivalent and I was doing Reign of Ash stuff instead, I probably still could have written all of the outlines this year. I wouldn't have revised all the outlines this year. I wouldn't have had time for that. But if I spent the time writing all of the outlines, I probably could have done that if I didn't do any review writing stuff. So like, maybe I should actually get back to that. I've been wanting to get back to the fiction writing for a long time. I would like to. I would love to. So now that I have this realization that, like, I don't have to write that many words if I just wrote something every day. If I wrote one scene of an outline every single day, I'd be able to get through an outline in a month or two. And, like, that would be a heck of a lot better than nothing, which is what I got done in 2025 was nothing for The Reign of Ash, for example. So I'm, like, looking at that, like, I should fix that. I can definitely fix that if I really want to. So that is something I hope to do in 2026, but of course I have a lot of aspirations for 2026. Speaking of, let's roll over into that section, goals, plans, and hopes for 2026. We're going to start basically with my content plans, like my goals for channel performance between the different channels. And then we'll talk about some of the other ideas that I have, like for the website, review platforms, that kind of thing. I've already talked a little bit about my writing goals. I'm going to continue reviewing all the things that I experienced this year. I'm going to continue keeping up with that. I'm going to try to keep up with it a little bit better as well. But I would definitely like to write anything fiction related at all this year. I would like to actually get those 3 tributary stories, ideas that I have, like actually get those written and revised and start like maybe self-publishing just those short stories solely for the sake of being able to say I've like actually published something. That would be something I would like to do. And then I would definitely like to get back on the train of writing outlines for the Reign of Ash sequence because it's been way too long. At this point, it's been approaching a year and a half since I've actually been able to work on that properly, and that feels terrible. But on a video front, content side of things, what are my goals here? What are, the milestones that I hope to hit here? Well, first off, I will say that there's about 39 update videos planned out. There was a while where all of my update videos were just posted on the main channel, so they counted for my main channel, like video posting habits. And then partway through the year, I started posting some of those on the second channel. And then very shortly after I started doing that, I realized that YouTube actually incorporated a collaboration feature, which is very nifty, so that I can do a video on my main channel, update video stuff, and then just invite other relevant channels of mine into them as collaborators as necessary, which means that I'm able to invite the second channel in without technically breaking TOS by uploading the same video to 2 different channels. And in this case, if I start doing third channel stuff even somewhat semi-regularly or whatever, it would be 3 channels, so that would be a problem. So 39 update videos, which would technically count for the main channel, but because they're collaborations with the other 2, not counting them, I count them separately now. Otherwise, on the main channel, I'm aiming for about 100 videos this year. It's definitely a lot less than previous years, maybe the 100 to 125 video range. If I'm able to keep up with my general schedule to some degree, some similar degree that I have been, even just in 2025, but especially in previous years, I can hit 100 to 125 pretty easily, I think. It could go up to 150, but that number is definitely a little bit lower than previous years because, 39 of those videos will be updates, so I'm not counting them technically the same way. So really, if I hit 100 videos that aren't update videos in 2026, I'll be more than happy with that. I would also like to point out that because I'm going to be able to incorporate some of the YouTube partner stuff in there, like super chats and channel memberships. I would also kind of like to do a couple of live streams on the main channel as well. Not many, like maybe like 5 to 10, I don't know, stream once every 1 to 2 months on the main channel. Maybe if there's some reason to do it. I know there's a couple of live stream plans that I have for 2026 to do that I would like to do. So maybe I'll do a couple streams on the main channel now. Otherwise, for the rest of the statistics side of things, I would love to see the channel exceed 30,000 views again, but given that it barely did that in 2025, and a lot of the reason for that was a couple specific videos that, like, I'm not going to have any content that is able to do that kind of stuff in 2026 as far as I know, I'd be more than happy with 25,000 views this year, and even 20,000 would probably be acceptable, to be honest, because expecting my channel to continue doing what it has been doing most of 2025 would be a little bit crazy, because this year's been surprisingly great performance. On a similar token, I'd love to still see 3,000 watch hours again, because that would be consistent with that YouTube Partner Program base level requirement. My real goal, my real lofty goal for the main channel is to hit 4,000 watch hours so that I can hit YouTube, like full YouTube monetization eligibility. No idea if that's realistic or possible, like I said, I don't really have the content that would cause that to happen, so it would only be if my channel was getting picked up more and more in the algorithm and more people were starting to like snowball the performance of the channel rather than big videos doing the heavy lifting. But nonetheless, if that happens, I'd be beyond proud to be able to hit that point within 5 years. But I would, again, be pretty happy with like 2,500 watch hours. Even 2,000 would be more than I got in 2024, and so that would be okay. And I'd also love to see the channel hit 1 million impressions in 2026. Of course, kind of like I said last year, impressions are basically out of anybody's control. I, as the channel, can't control it. You, as the viewer, can't control it at all. Whereas, like, watch time and views, you can kind of control to a certain degree depending on the actual quality of the content or whatever else. It's just a matter of whether YouTube decides to show people videos. But considering that I got so close to 1 million this year, and that was not nearly as big of a jump from the previous year as like some of my other statistics were, I'd be happy just to hit 750,000 again, but I think it's possible that the channel could hit 1 million impressions in 2026, especially if I don't take a month off, because I think a big part of the reason why my impressions didn't do much in the back half of this year, relatively speaking, because they were doing a lot in the front half of this year, is because I didn't post anything for like a month. So it took a couple months for the impressions to kind of repair itself and for things to start being pushed again. So that's definitely something that's important to note. Also, my really lofty goal for 2026, as far as subscribers go, is that at least as the time of the very end of the year, hitting 402 more subs to be able to hit 1,500 is kind of that arbitrary number. Again, pretty lofty. I would be exceptionally shocked if that actually happened, but that would be pretty cool to see, just to be able to hit that clean 1,500. Otherwise, I don't know what my goal otherwise might be. Just 1,250, just getting 150 more subscribers just to hit that clean number. I don't know. At this point, I don't really have that many goals. My main goal for the channel was hit 1,000, and that was that. So at this point, I don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, what's a handful of content-related goals for 2026 on the main channel? Well, kind of as I was discussing a little bit earlier, I do want to keep the book binge going strong. I don't really want to change very much about that. If I have to reduce my content schedule, like upload cadence, I guess, a bit, I will certainly do that, especially come the back half of the year, but I do want to keep the book binge going as strong as I can and as consistent as I can, given the way that it's been the last couple of years. I also want to finish the Wheel of Time diaries out strong, doing all those here in the first half of the year. That's something I'm looking forward to, and maybe beginning to plan and transition for my next big diary series to start like in 2027 or something, and look forward to that, like reading Malazan or Sandoz the Cosmere stuff. Those are some ideas that I have for post Wheel of Time. Probably none of that happens in 2026. Most likely none of that happens in 2026, but maybe I start like kind of ramping up and preparing a sort of loose schedule for it to head into next year or something. Not entirely sure. And also as like a random little thing for content, I also plan on maybe potentially getting like a green screen so that I can start doing like State of Affairs and Fortnite on the Isle and stuff like within the recording scene, but without this background, so that Fortnite on the Isle, instead of being here with, my camera just in a corner up here with the picture there, is kind of a little tacky thing, I could be like actually fully in there, just over top that background image or something. That's something that I would really like to do. But, there's also some other things that I could use a green screen for, just for little content tweaks, for some fun stuff, like some fun little updates that aren't really changing anything too much besides just a little bit of the visual flair. I don't know. The real issue is that I'm not sure where to begin with that kind of thing. I have no idea, what green screen to get or something, or like what different price ranges for that kind of thing, how much that actually affects the quality of it or anything. I don't know. I don't know any of the details of that kind of stuff. So maybe I look into doing some of that in 2026 so that it can work for 2027. That was an idea I had had several months ago so that I could go into 2026 with it. Then I completely forgot about it in the midst of a bunch of chaos. Mostly, I'm just trying to keep having fun making videos all while working a new job. Just trying to keep up with the channel, even if not a whole lot else changes. For the second channel, I'm hoping to do, 50 to 75 videos this year is basically where my plan and goal is at, between doing, Let's Plays, and doing Music Mania and Movie Magic and a brief review. I think that will be pretty doable. If I'm able to do Let's Plays more or less every week through most of the year, and then add in the random extra videos like one Music Mania a month, plus, hopefully at least one episode of Movie Magic and or a brief review every month, would be something that I would like to be able to get done. So 50 to 75 videos seems pretty realistic without being too lofty of a goal, without being too much over there, because I'm not going to have enough time to do the kind of thing to be able to get me up to, 100 videos in the year or something like that. But if I got 50 videos on the second channel in 2026, that would be great. And I'd also like to be able to add, up to 50 live streams, I guess, over the course of the year. Like it's not going to get that many, up to 50 live streams, because I would like to stream, say on average, hopefully around once every weekend, or most weekends anyway, doing some of the Let's Play related type of stuff. No idea how consistent I'm going to end up being there, but that is a form of consistency that I would like. So 50 to 75 videos plus up to 50 live streams would be pretty cool. That would be pretty awesome. As far as some of the numbers go, I would love to hit 10,000 views on the second channel again, but I think that's pretty unlikely given that most of my views in 2025 were from one single video. So I would be good with 5,000 views, and honestly, I might not even hit that much in 2026. So just whatever ends up happening, I'm happy with. Can I hit 1,500 watch hours again in 2026? Again, also a little bit unlikely. I'll stick with the goal of just 1,000 for now and kind of see what happens. I don't think I'll hit 500,000 impressions this year. I think that one's way unlikely. I think that 250,000 impressions is a lofty enough goal for the second channel at this point, because I don't think I'm going to end up posting anything over there that is going to do what like the Claire Obscure video did, for example. So, we'll see what happens, but that's the goal, is just 250,000 impressions on the second channel. And then I have a couple different goals that I could have as far as subscriber count goes. If I was able to get some of the bigger numbers and bigger performance like I did this year, say getting another 112 subscribers in 2026 just to hit 250 would be like incredible. But that one is not going to happen. Like I only got 109 new subscribers in 2025 for reference, and that was an insane amount. So I think that having even just the goal to get 62 more subscribers so that I can hit 200 on the second channel in 2026, that's probably a high enough goal. So we'll see what ends up happening, but those are the numbers that I would like to hit over there. Despite everything else going on, I am going to try to balance out content this year on the second channel, because I want to stay ahead of what I've done the last 2 months for sure, because the last 2 months has been basically nothing for the second channel. But I also do not think that I can go as ham as I did in September and October, because that was pretty insane and again pretty unsustainable, and particularly unsustainable in the context of now going to be starting a new job pretty soon. So I guess I want to try for something sort of in between, just have consistent Let's Play related stuff, both as far as recorded video releases go and as far as live stream stuff goes, just having some consistency there, and then doing the monthly Music Mania thing, and then like I said, having at least one Movie Magic and or a brief review episode come out in 2026 each month would work wonders. Like that would be incredible for some amount of consistency, to be able to keep all the different content paths going over there, to be able to hit that video target, to be able to have that creative outlet and freedom, but also, again, not quite go so ham where I'm releasing like 2+ videos every single week, because there was a portion of 2025 where I was posting between the two channels 6 to 7 videos a week, and that occurred for like 2 months. That was like actually insane. I don't know how I did that, but it was fun too. But again, that's not sustainable. It's not something that's going to be able to happen this year. Besides, on the second channel as well, not even videos that I want to release this year per se, a critical analysis, my primary gaming related review series, where it's not just, talking about stuff in a relatively brief, shorter context, but like deeper dive videos where like the editing's better, not rushed out for the sake of being able to have the video, but like dedicated full reviews that I'm really happy and proud of. I've been waiting to do more critical analysis for years, and I think that this year is the year that I finally go back and officially rewrite season 1 of it. There's 7 videos that I want to directly focus on in 2026 to at least write the scripts for. Still have a couple of games to play in order to be able to do that, because those rewrite scripts aren't just recovering the games that I've already made videos on. It's also adding a little bit of stuff to them as well. For example, I did a critical analysis on the main channel a long time ago on BioShock 1, and doing a rewrite for BioShock 1, I would like to include BioShock 2 in it. Things like that. So I have a couple more games to play, but generally speaking, in 2026, I want to actually go back and officially revisit Season 1 and get it completely rewritten. That would be incredible given how long it's been and how long I've been wanting to do that, how long I've been saying on the channel that I've been wanting to do that. I've been speaking since I started doing BookTube in 2022, when I actually did a couple of video game reviews early in 2022, and then like for the rest of that year I said like I'm going to circle back to a critical analysis soon when I have time. And I just ended up never doing that. And then I decided that it didn't make sense to continue trying to post video game stuff on the main channel. So I made a second channel in 2023 to upload old Let's Play stuff. And then I was like, okay, I could do reviews over here now. And then was like expanding different content ideas. And in all those, at this point, very nearly 4 years since the last time I posted a critical analysis video, I've been wanting to return to it. So I think this is the year where I actually get back and rewrite those. So it's 7 scripts. That's a lot, but I would really like to do that this year. As far as the third channel goes, kind of like what I was saying earlier, this is a pretty loose thing. This is more like just doing stuff that I want to do when I want to do it, to be a little bit more of a hobby channel rather than making anything super inherently consistent with it. Mostly just like covering stuff as I feel like I want to and as it makes sense to in my brain works out for me. So like I'll try to do, let's just say like 10 plus videos, 10 to 30 videos this year, I guess. Like no real commitments, but like if I could do like a video a month to kind of talk about my IRL stuff and to update what all that is doing and where I'm at with all of that, that would be more than enough for me. And who knows, there's always a chance that I don't actually end up posting any videos on the third channel this year at all. No idea. It's just, wanting to make it a good semi-habit of bettering my health and fitness. I remember a handful of years ago, I did have a better diet for a while, actually, and also had a little bit of a good fitness habit with regard to lifting and stuff like that. I'm trying to get back into that somewhat, at least a little bit this year, and I'm also trying to focus a little bit on my faith in ways that I haven't for years or longer at this point either. So ultimately the end goal is to just be better with regard to all these things, and the third channel, mostly I just want it to serve as an additional motivation for it. I don't have to make content on any of these things, and to some degree maybe I arguably shouldn't make content on some of these things, but I also know the way that I work. If I don't have a reason to do something, like a work related reason, some technical obligation, quote unquote, to do something, I just do not do it. I don't have enough time to do all of the things, and I fill my time with so many things that if there's not like some work related incentive to get something done, I just don't do it. This is the reason why I did not make movie reviews for a very long time. I don't remember if I said that in this video or not already, but I did not make movie reviews on the second channel for a very long time. I did not watch movies because I wasn't making reviews, and deciding that I wanted to be able to make movie reviews and put those on the channel to some capacity was like, okay, I will justify going to watch movies now because I can review them. And so like I have a reason to go enjoy stuff. And that's worked for me kind of across the board. And I think that having that kind of additional extra excuse to be able to say, yeah, I'm going to continue working out, I'm going to continue eating better, because that will give me something to talk about in some capacity in a video or something like that, and that just works as an additional motivator for me. I don't know why that's how I work, but that is certainly how I work. So that's the idea behind the third channel. And besides, if I have occasion to talk about anything else, like a little bit more personal that doesn't really fit either of the other channels, something like sports, like March Madness, or if I wanted to do anything like gun related, I don't know, it would go on the third channel. So like I want to have options open for certain things to talk about or potentially cover that wouldn't fit the first couple of channels, and also give me an additional excuse, an additional reason to do some of these things to better my own life that I've otherwise been slacking on. Next up, let's talk about my plans in 2026 for website, review platforms, and social media related stuff. This isn't too horribly complicated. It's just like doing basically anything with some of these things. The website still needs a massive overhaul that has seen no progress in 2025. I have many ideas on ways to improve this, but it's going to take a lot of time to actually do it. Same thing with my Discord server. I would like to get those two kind of like both up and running, so that I can have member areas on like the website and a Discord server for, dedicated fans to like actually participate in some degree that isn't just leaving a random comment now and again. Kind of also to pair along with like the YouTube channel membership, so that if you don't want to do that kind of thing on YouTube, you have a centralized place that has more than just my YouTube content, but literally all of my stuff in one place. That's what the website is meant to be for example. So I want to work on these things. Maybe I get the chance to tinker with it in 2026, but honestly at this point I think probably I don't get the chance, but I would really, really like to. In either case, that is the idea there. My review platforms like Goodreads, Letterboxd, Serialized, Music Board, Backlogged, all these things, they're all doing pretty well right now. I will try to not get so behind on some of this stuff, on some of my review writing like I did in 2025. There were several months where I got really behind on a lot of things just because I didn't have time to write a lot of those reviews in the moment. Almost all of the 33,000 words that I wrote for reviews in December were catching up on reviews that had been waiting for reviews since, as late as like June or July or earlier than that. So my goal with review platforms and doing that kind of thing in 2026 is to just not get so behind on it and not let myself get so behind on it. And if I'm able to work on website related things, I would like to work on being able to integrate those things together and getting better at updating multiple things at once. So, that's an idea that I have. On the social media side of things, it's definitely a tougher nut to crack for me. For some reason, I just don't really think about social media or posting or anything like that, making, any of that kind of stuff. It's not something that I really think about very much, and certainly not very regularly. There are a handful of like random post promotion or video promotion posts that I have on some of my socials from 2025 that I've done, but like outside of the random one of those, I just don't think about it. So like, I know I should get better at remembering to do some of those things consistently, and I should also honestly consider trying to post my videos in places that aren't just on YouTube. So like YouTube alternatives would be something that I should do. But even if I just like posted my videos on my Facebook and particularly like my Twitter page, for example, if I posted like just straight up the full videos there, those would probably get a little bit of attention and attraction in ways that you just don't get on YouTube, for example. I don't know how much that would actually be, probably not much, but that's something that I would kind of like to try experimenting with at some point, just to potentially expand the audience at some point. But yeah, that's an idea that I have. And I've also been trying to come up with some decent ideas for like unique posts and short form content for social media, just to like have an excuse to do social media stuff that isn't just or video promotions, because like video promotions and nothing else is like kind of boring. Having a presence that is more than that would be pretty useful. So like I want the socials to be more than just that, but I also want them to be more or less free from like actual personal life stuff. So trying to find some way to do content on social media that is different is pretty hard. That's not something that I'm very good at thinking about. I just my brain's just not on that kind of thing. I've little to no idea where to actually begin making that kind of happen. Like I said, my brain's just kind of not tuned to that sort of thing. So I guess in 2026, what I want to do is like I want to try to ease in and just kind of enact some consistent ideas throughout the year, even if just like doing my monthly reading wrap up and TBRs, making like a static photo post like for Instagram or something like that, covering things, or like with every book or movie or game or something that I experienced, doing like a sort of brief caption review or something and having a photo of it. Doing more static stuff like that is something that I should try to do semi-consistently, just for the sake of having something there that isn't just promoting videos. But I would also like to do unique short form reviews or other unique short form content on social media that would be social media specific, that wouldn't necessarily carry over to actual YouTube content. That would be something that would probably be great for reach and stuff like that. But again, I don't know what to do. I don't know any ideas for that kind of thing. And also, some of that kind of work seems pretty tedious. I just have no idea how to prioritize that kind of thing. No idea what to do with it. So that's the kind of pickle I'm in. Like knowing I should probably do more with social media, but having no idea what to do, if anything. So yeah. Basically, that's like I don't know how to do a TLDR for my goals. My goals for the year are to just keep on keeping on. Ultimately, just find a great way to balance my personal life, you know, some of my personal life goals, as well as keeping up with content and also the job. That is like that is the TLDR, I guess. And that took forever to put together. This list of notes took forever to put together. I mentioned early on in the video that I have 2,500 words of notes compared to 1,500 last year. Last year's video was nearly an hour long. This recording is nearly an hour and a half long. So, my apologies for that. Needless to say, I have big aspirations for 2026, but I have legitimately zero idea if I'll be able to follow through with a lot of that. Oftentimes, I come nowhere near my plans and my hopes, but we shall see. For now, I guess, like, just let me know in the comments below. If you happened to watch this whole thing, I am so sorry, but let me know what your plans for 2026 are down below. They certainly can't be as insane as mine, but I'm going to get out of your face, and I don't know if this video is actually going to end up coming out when I thought it would or when I wanted it to, solely on account of just how long this is. I'm currently finishing up this recording about less than 12 hours before this video would optimally need to come out, and I don't think I have the time to actually edit this and also sleep, so we shall see what happens. But for now, thank you for watching this video if you did. 2025 was a crazy year. You know, it was great in some ways, like my content performance was really great, but there's a lot of other ways, mostly personally related, where it was just kind of not great. Like I was really busy with work and also doing freelance stuff in like April and May, and that was honestly kind of miserable. That's why I took a hiatus from posting content in June, was to like try to free myself from some of the extra stress a little bit. Then in June, when I was on the content hiatus, was actually when some other things happened at my IRL job that basically forced me to quit, and my two options were to quit at the end of the month or quit in 3 months, basically, were my two options. So I decided to quit sooner to save my sanity a little bit. And then the back half of the year has just been really crazy ups and downs everywhere. You've been unemployed the entire time, but still been really busy doing more content stuff, which was great. And I loved being able to do that. But there's always also just been a whole lot of other stuff, a lot of travel and some other things that have gone on that have been really great and then really not. And it's certainly been an adventure, and I'm hoping that 2026 is a little bit more predictable insofar as like general my general outlook on stuff. I hope to recover a little bit more from some of the things that didn't go so well, especially the last handful of months. We shall see what happens there. I think the first half of the year, I think the first like 5 months of 2026, I'm really looking forward to and seeing how that goes while I adjust to all these things. And then the back half of 2026 will be working around that framework and seeing what else I can do with it, like with regards to travel or something like that. I have no idea. Maybe I still decide to move in 2026. I don't know. But needless to say, it's just been insane. 2025 was a really transitory year, and I think 2026 is probably going to be another one. Maybe, I don't know. Not as much as what it was looking like even just a handful of weeks ago, but it's still probably going to be crazy. But like I said, let me know what you're looking forward to this year. I would sure love to hear about it. For now, I've been your host, King Crusoe. You can call me KC. I sincerely apologize again for the length and absolute just terribleness of this video, but I hope to see you guys in the next one nonetheless.